crossed. Well, hello, and I'm Andrew Jenkins, and this is a short, quick countdown timer to help the various live feeds catch up and settle down, folks. And we're pretty sure we're live this morning, so there we go. And we're going to be hanging out with Paul Yates, expert and lead account manager of YPS Psychology. And we're going to be talking about the theme of unlocking human potential, decoding the power of neurodiversity in the workplace. And I think this is a big challenge for us as businesses. And, you know, on Leaders Live, we are not afraid of tackling the big questions like neurodiversity, etc. So if you're around, please let us know that you're here, and in the comments, that'll be really useful. Thank you. So we know that we're not alone. We've got some mates. So yeah, give us a quick hello, Paul.
Hello.
Hello, and Mrs. Moderator herself, Sarah Jenkins. Hello.
Take it off mute. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. 127th show, folks. So we've got Sarah, we've got Paul, we've got Tilly Davis from our LinkedIn marketing specialist from Marketing CX, and our sponsors, Healthy Minds Club. That's this week's sponsors, and that's today's team, folks. Wow, there we go. Wow, yeah, and a bit of there we go. So we're counting down into our sponsorship intro. There we go. We haven't got any people on LinkedIn yet on the comments side. Everybody is. Boom, there we go. So let us know you're online for us so that we don't feel all alone. So, oi, oi, people, and hi, gang, it's Leaders Live showtime, folks. Hurrah and huzzah. It's just after 8:45 a.m. here in the UK, and we are live, folks, with Leaders Live, spreading the love, folks, spreading the love, yabba dabba do. We hope you enjoyed that groovy opener as well, gang. And this week, we're delighted that we're being powered by Healthy Minds Club, this week's sponsor, and look out for who's sponsoring us each week. And please let me know if our audio is coming through okay too. I can see plenty of people online, but so please let us know you're around on the comments. So that just helps us to know that we're not Billy No Mates here, although I can see the stats are there. So if you're new to Leaders Live, a warm welcome to you. And for those of you that are new, hey, look, Leaders Live is a dynamic weekly talk show that generates business through networking, through community, and through extraordinary conversations that inspire. That's what we do here. And, good, and we've got comments coming through at last. That's brilliant. Phew. It's always good to know you're out there, folks. And as I mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins. I host this interactive weekly Leaders Live business show that's built an awesome community of like-minded business leaders from all sorts of areas and sectors in our business world. So please don't be shy. We'd love you to introduce yourself, join in, interact with the comments, ask questions for Paul and myself and Sarah. And we've just got three simple rules, folks. A safe community, mutual respect, and please no selling in the room. And our motto is I to the power of we. Oh, so there we go. Wow. And look, a really easy way that you can show support for this free show and the time and effort that we put in to produce it is you can use the little app called buymeacoffee.com/leaderslive. And buy me $5 and you get a free half-hour coaching session. But it's just a bit of fun, and all the proceeds that we get go back into the show. So, and it looks a little bit like this. If I can do a little quick test of this. And we had coffees brought to us last week as well. So thank you very much for those. You know who you are. So the link will be in the feed. There it is. Sarah can now put even links into the feed of the power of LinkedIn magic. And you get a shout out too. As I said, all proceeds go to the show. So smash those likes, folks, and those thumbs up as well, please. And subscribe to leaderslive.tv. That all helps us to keep motivated. So if you put it all together, what have you got? Bibbidi, bibbidi, bobbidi, boo. There you go. You'll be singing that song all day. And here we go then. Let's just introduce our this week's Hangout guest, Mr. Paul Yates. How you doing, buddy?
I'm okay. Thanks for having me on, Andrew.
No, you're very welcome. Yeah, it's always nice when people say thank you for having me. And Paul, you are the account manager of YPS Psychology, and we're looking at the theme of unlocking human potential this morning, aren't we, Paul? And decoding the power of neurodiversity in the workplace. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about your business, the YPS Psychology, and the principal challenge that YPS solves in business, Paul?
Right, we've been undertaking neurodiversity training and assessments in schools, colleges, universities, and also the corporate setting. We've assessed employees for Audi, Mercedes-Benz, and several universities in the recent past. Since 2018, I've been working closely with our psychologists, which I want to share my experiences for, especially about ADHD and dyslexia today.
Brilliant. Yeah, so that's where we're kind of heading. We're kind of opening up this can of worms in terms of, neurodiverse conditions like dyslexia and ADHD. And yeah, I mean, these are more prevalent than you think, folks. And, and it's how we deal with them is really important. And so, just give us a little clue where you're taking us today. Where are we heading, Paul? Where's the traveller direction that you'd like to take us through? I know you talked about ADHD and dyslexia, but give us a little bit more about that background, where we're heading today, Paul.
Yeah, it's dispelling some myths around dyslexia, and putting strategies in place for companies and also for dyslexia and ADHD within the work environment. Trying to help companies understand how these employees and neurodiverse people work, basically.
So we're looking at both from the perspective of the individual, the employee, say, for example, but also employers and how we can find a balance there to create healthy work cultures, I'm guessing, Paul. Is that kind of just putting those two ideas together?
Basically, yeah.
Super. Okie dokie. So there we go. That's where we're going. And look, we've got an audience question to kick you off with. Paul, have you got that in front of you, or do you want me to say it?
I haven't got it in front of me. So,
no worries. Okay. So here's a question for you, boys and girls, that listening in to start to interact with us, because this is an interactive show, right? So please give us your comments. And here's a question for you to kick you off, so we can get the interaction going for you guys listening. In your experience, what positive shifts in workplace culture have you noticed recently regarding neurodiversity? So, and just share any impactful stories or examples that you've got that come to mind. So that's really where we're heading today. In your experience, what positive shifts in the workplace culture have you noticed recently regarding neurodiversity? So that's where we're heading. And the question is now in the feed. So there we go. We know there's a little delay in the feed because it just is. That's what happens when we go live. So let's just bring in Mrs. Moderator a moment. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
I think people have been a bit shy this morning.
They are, aren't they? They're not normally like this.
It needs some interaction. But I'm going to kick it off because I think one of the things I've noticed is it's almost become a bit of a buzzword, or I've got ADHD, or... So people are talking about it, but I'm not convinced that it's actually changing anything from an employer perspective. Do you think it has, Paul?
On some respects, yes, but in our dealing, no.
So you're still banging the drum, Paul, is what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we're still banging our head against the wall with some companies. So we're actually trying to change how leaders think, but it's hard. I'm not going to lie.
It's like pushing a boulder uphill, probably.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And you're changing mindsets, and change takes time. And, I remember, 20 years ago when I set up PDX, 20 years ago, folks, I was banging the drum on soft skills and emotional intelligence. And most people that I would speak to as leadership say, get out of here. We're only interested in hard skills because they're the only ones that work. None of the other stuff works. So, and that was 20 years ago. And we've now got through a pandemic, and suddenly people are saying, actually, these things are important. And maybe it's the same for neurodiversity as well, Paul. There's a bit of an uphill battle, maybe a tick box kind of HR perspective, but people's views are changing, right? And we're getting more normalized to this idea, perhaps, Paul.
Well, what we're seeing is people are looking for jobs now,
Yeah.
are actually wanting more neurodiverse culture.
Oh, interesting.
We it is a lot of employees which are recognising this and are trying to change within the policies, and not just looking at one particular person, especially with the psychometric testing.
Yeah, we'll come on to psychometric testing. That's quite interesting. That there, and this whole thing about policy change too. It's quite interesting. You know, what really does change culture? Is it policy change? But where does it start? So we'll come on to that a bit later.
Yeah.
And we did a poll on those kind of things. So we'll come on to that in a minute. But Sarah, what's going on the feed? Is there anything that we need to pick up straight away?
Yeah, Anita says she remembers watching a documentary about dyslexia, and some companies would only employ dyslexics because they had great problem-solving skills. And it's a shame that the strategy isn't more common. And Rebecca says, what is the best way to make change happen faster?
There's a good question.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the younger population coming through going, we're not going to accept that anymore. You know, the dinosaur head in the sand approach. It's, you know, we're not prepared to accept that. And, you know, if companies want bright youngsters to work for them, they're going to have to change. What do you think?
I truly think it starts with the CEO. The CEO has to actually put things in place, then it filters down to senior management.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that does mean that things have to change then at that level, at the board level.
Yeah,
Is
I
what
mean,
you're saying there.
at a corporate level, you have to go from a CEO all the way down to the shop floor, and if the culture doesn't happen in between, it's not going to work.
Indeed. And it's just an interesting comment from Anita as well, just picking up on that, Sarah, you know, that some people employ, you know, neurodiverse people because of certain skill traits, like creativity, for example. I'm just thinking of, you know, a marketing agency, perhaps, Sarah, or something like that, you know.
Absolutely.
Are there companies, Paul, that need that?
Ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see it all the time, especially people with autism. They make great coders.
Yeah. So as a generalization, you know, I know we're stereotyping slightly here, but actually, those kind of autistic traits have real skills in terms of logic and problem solving. And I'm just thinking of dyslexic people, perhaps being very creative because they think so differently from,
they don't think like normal people. They think out the box. So
normal people. What's the word we use for that these days, Paul?
Neurotypical, not
neurotypical, isn't it? I think, is that right? Is that what we use? Is it?
Normal's very subjective, isn't it?
Yeah. If you look at our household, it would be, wouldn't it?
It doesn't matter because I'm dyslexic, so I'm one of them few, and I've pushed myself to come on here and out of the way, and it hasn't. Having dyslexia doesn't stop you doing things.
Right. So here we go, folks. So here's the first thing. So having an autistic trait or a neurodiverse trait, whether it's dyslexia, whether it's ADHD, folks, this doesn't stop you doing stuff. You know, the one way to look at it is, and we probably need to change the language on this, Paul. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, you know, we use this word dysfunction, you know, because we're comparing, you know, as you just said, you know, apples and pears, normal people versus not normal people.
Yeah.
And actually, it's nothing to do with that. Neurodiverse is something very different. You know, it's not actually a dysfunction. Maybe this is a challenge to you, Paul. Do companies need to change their language about this, not see these things as dysfunction, but more as a trait of, you know, something different that's at play here?
It is a lot of people. Managers who don't understand what neurodiversity is, and we're asking companies to actually go out and get neurodiverse training.
Yeah. Okay.
For a greater understanding of these behaviours.
These behaviours. Yeah.
So I've got a question. So, do you think it's anything to do with the age of the people who are the CEOs, senior leadership, management? Do you think if they're dare I say this, in our generation, That they're maybe not as clued up as some of the younger members of staff might be, and so they still see it as a problem
Yeah.
rather than seeing it as just a different personality trait and a different way of working.
Yeah, not
That's a really
all,
good question.
not all,
Mhm.
but I've come across quite a few which have a typical how can I say it?
Head in the sand attitude.
Yeah, basically, yeah, head in the sand. I can't even find the words to actually say it.
Don't worry, you'll warm up when we get going on this. So-
Like I say, I was talking to Andrew about
Yeah.
when we was at a conference, and a barrister actually came up to us, and we got talking about well-being, and I said about stress and stress levels within the law society, and the barrister just turned around and said, "Stress, that's for weak people."
Yeah, we have to
And
change that attitude, right? Stress, that's for weak people.
I
It's
was
such a
gobsmacked.
limited viewpoint, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah,
Quite
and
scary, isn't it?
he was he was a bit older than us.
Yeah.
Like, not like we're old, like
It's not.
Well, age-wise, maybe, but isn't it interesting that this is an attitudinal thing, is what you're saying, Paul? That maybe there is a sea change, as Sarah was saying. Is there a sea change that's coming? And it sounds like younger versions of CEOs are now emerging. The leadership teams are in themselves more diverse than they were.
They seem to want a better culture.
Yeah, and absolutely. And if you want a better culture, you have to be more inclusive, and rather than have those kind of the attitudes that the lawyer that you mentioned, the barrister, on change, and that's just. I mean, we're coming to a question in a moment, but Sarah, do you want to pick up something on the in the feed?
Yes. So Laurie says, much prefer the term
Hello, Dr. Laurie.
neurodiversity to others,
Yeah.
to other more narrow and negative terms. Much of what we define as neurodiversity is within the realm of normal. It's just that our definition of normal has been too narrow defined for too long.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what, Laurie, and this is just something that we were talking about before the show. I remember at 3i being tested for, I was going for a promotion, and we had to do this sort of IQ test and maths test. For God knows why we needed that to do a management role. But, because their idea of normal was that you have to be an A+ student to be able to manage, and it's like, what? These are skills that we don't necessarily need at the front of our mind, and I just found that quite interesting. So we do need to change our mindset, don't we? I think, and yeah, I agree that narrow definition of normal. What else, Sarah?
Yeah, Rebecca says, what is covered in neurodiverse training? Can you share us a few tips?
There we go. So, yeah, go for it, Paul.
Where'd you start?
Yeah, it's all aspects of neurodiverse people can go from ADHD to dyslexia to dyscalculia to autism.
Dyscalculia and things like that as well, and
Yeah,
all of those conditions.
If people don't know, dyscalculia is a problem with mathematics.
Is that called? Is that a different thing than dyscalculator? What's the word I'm looking for?
No, same thing, Andrew.
Same thing, right? Okay.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Numbers.
Numbers.
Dyslexia is generally words. Dyscalculus is numbers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We actually in our training we undertake strategies for putting advising the companies about putting things in place for these neurodiverse people.
Yeah, I mean, there's testing on the one side, Paul.
It just doesn't. It's not just on dyslexia. You could have a different range of people with disabilities. So it's not just the brain. It could be physical disabilities as well.
Yeah, I mean, Rebecca, I think where Rebecca's coming from, I'm wondering, is, from a leadership perspective, if we want to change business culture, you were
Yeah.
saying that that has to start at the board level. It has to start, at that level, and then it filters down. So how do you kind of make those leadership board teams more aware of, the whole neurodiverse thing and what the benefits are to them, Paul?
Um, I've got about 20 sets of paper here. It's making sure that all staff has undertaken neurodiversity awareness course, and making sure that everybody knows about neurodiversity.
So we don't end up with conversations like, look, just pull yourself together. This is just a
Yeah,
stress thing.
or
Okay.
stresses for weak people.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a bit about language and
Um,
attitude.
the if you have a neurodiverse culture, you have a better reputation as well with the company. So the employees feel more happier as well. So you're engaging with a workforce, which makes more productivity as
Okay.
well.
Yeah. So,
Um,
okay. So people feel safer in the workplace if they are considered to, their viewpoint is taken,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
the way they are isn't abnormal. It's just the way they are, and they're accepted for that. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, it comes under higher employee satisfaction, basically.
Okay. All right. So
Um,
there's some stats that can go in there, but isn't that a
yeah.
danger of being a bit of a tick box, Paul? I'm being a bit provocative here with you, but I can see that just being a
Yeah,
tick box
I
exercise.
mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of companies which on social media and on the face of it actually seem neurodiverse, but when you delve into the actual employees and talk to employees of companies, nothing's changed behind the scenes. It's just a front.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of teasing behind here. So to really get cultures to change, we need to move beyond just the kind of diversity training, surely, Paul. We need to get to the benefits of having a mixed workforce and
Yeah,
different
but
degrees of.
isn't that instilled from the CEO and the senior
Well,
managers?
that's what I'm saying, and that's the interesting thing, and I'm wondering what YPS psychology does to kind of help that understanding at that level, to see it more than just a tick box and a policy statement, but
Yeah,
much more of a, actually, if we are this way, then we get massive benefits, and if we can dispel some of those myths and people feel safe with us, maybe there's even more benefits to have, and we
yeah,
can change that culture. That's kind of where I'm teasing to. That's where I'm getting to, and
yeah. But
teasing out with you.
you could have as much training in the world,
Yeah.
and if you get a CEO who has all the training
Mm.
and just goes back to his old ways, it's not. Even if you put things in place for the CEO to do, the CEO has to have a want to do it, basically.
Well, I guess also that he's being accountable to the board as well. And if they're
Yeah,
getting training as a board on this, then they know what language is above the line, below the line, what's acceptable, what's non-acceptable.
yeah,
And, they're changing their attitudes to this, and
yeah,
not seeing it as a stigma or as a weakness, but, seeing it differently. I'm just wondering if we can extend that and move beyond just seeing the policy, but seeing that actually our employers that have our employees that have those diverse neurodiverse traits actually are an advantage to us in different ways, because we get a superpower, we get high performance because of it. And I'm wondering what kind of things that you've come across that might support that, Paul, that kind of, moving just beyond the policy, but moving towards something that actually, it creates some sort of superpower in that company.
Um, to tell you the truth, we've tried and actually undertake training, and we don't actually, even though we work closely with companies,
Yeah.
we actually ask them to actually put things in place for the company.
Yeah.
in certain areas. We have a policy of if they have any issues that they could contact us for 12 months, but nobody has, and we don't see what goes on behind the scenes.
Mm.
It's down to the companies to actually implement these, and you only see behind the scenes when you talk to ex-employees. Say we do neurodiverse training and awareness and all other training aspects, and do assessments within the workplace.
Mm.
But it's only so much you can actually do. We've been on this line, we don't get to see behind the scenes of the company. Like I just said, until we speak to ex-employees or employees who phone us up and tell us information.
And maybe there's something in that that's opening those kind of conversations, isn't it? And in your experience, Paul, what sort of effective strategies or sort of accommodations can employers implement to support neurodiverse employees then? Particularly around dyslexia and ADHD that you were talking about earlier, say, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a massive list here, but I'll just shout a few out. Under dyslexia, they're using IT software called Dragon that helps.
Oh yes, yeah.
It helps dyslexic employees do written work and reports and convert speech into text.
Things like Grammarly as well could help as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also other software out there called text to speech. So that actually does the opposite. It actually says it for you.
Okay, so you can hear it rather than having to read it.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Instruction manuals, adjusting them for dyslexic people. If I know that we use throughout our website and all our literature is done in Arial because it's dyslexic friendly.
Okay, so it's easier to read because the font is known to be easier at Arial, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Tasks, breaking down tasks into smaller chunks to stop overwhelm.
Okay. Go on. So what I'm picking up there, Paul, is that actually, thinking about how you communicate with written form or speech form and being able to accommodate those that can't sort of maybe read things as quickly, or, if it's very long or complicated, then actually there's mechanisms on websites and on intranets to help break that down for different people to understand the same message. Is that what I'm picking up?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I used to do reports, I used to do them with spell check and Grammarly.
Yeah, Grammarly's brilliant. I use Grammarly. I think it's a fantastic piece of kit, actually. Brilliant piece of kit.
It's just little things like that. If regular breaks as well.
Okay, so then breaking up the workflow and not expecting people just to be head down all the time, but to be able to raise their heads, do something different, because that makes them more productive at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, ADHD, reasonable adjustment for the company to make for ADHD employees could be a quiet place to work.
So, I like that. Right. So there's a word, reasonable adjustments. Tell us a little bit more about reasonable adjustments. So quiet place is one example.
Yeah, I mean, the government actually says that about neurodiverse employees, the company have a legal obligation to do reasonable adjustments for the employee. And this could be, like I just said, a quiet place to work for definitely for ADHD. Noise cancelling headphones if they're working on telephones, movement breaks, and allow redirection of calls to concentrate. Is a particular technique called the Pomodoro technique, which the employee has a timer and they set the timer for 25 minutes, and they work solidly for 25 minutes. And when the alarm goes off, they take a break. And every individual is different for that. So you could get some employees which are 15 minutes, could be half an hour, could be 40 minutes. So it depends on the level of the employee with ADHD. And after 4 Pomodoro cycles, you take a longer break and a rest and recharge.
Okay. There's something about that. There's a CEO that I knew that divided his time up in 20-minute chunks. It's a really smart way of operating. I'll come back to that in a moment. I'll just give you just a quick break for a moment. Mrs. Moderator, what's going on? Let's just pick up some stuff from the audience.
Loads in the chat. Anita said she's heard about changing the background colour of the screen and the font can help with glare for dyslexics.
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
Lovely
Yeah,
question.
we have we do a lot of students for testing, for assessments, and we found red screens, green screen overlays as well help. So it's all individual, but these overlays do help.
Yeah, we found with our girls that black writing on a white paper, the whole lot used to move around. You change the background, and it's like, oh, it stays still. Amazing.
It's a complex condition, isn't it?
I'm going to throw something in that I think it's all very well having an attitude from a company. Yes, we will give reasonable adjustments, but it just, I suppose, because we've got 3 neurodiverse kids, that you think by the time they get into employment, they generally know what works for them. Wouldn't it be great to have a workplace that went, right, we embrace who everybody is in their individuality. What works best for you to get the job done?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah. So you actually asked the question, what would help you to get your job done well?
I know one of our daughters does wear noise cancelling ear loops at work.
They
It
are
drowns
fantastic.
out the background noise of an office, which actually ramps her up to such an agitated pitch that she can't work. So if she blocks that noise out, fine, no problem.
Yeah.
So, I do
check those out, folks. Those loops are brilliant. Absolutely
we're
amazing.
not on commission, but they are amazing.
They are absolutely amazing, particularly if noise is a big distraction to you. And for many autistic people, then that actually is a case. Background noise, cutting it out. Yeah, Laurie brings up that point, I think, somewhere as well, Sarah. I don't know.
Yes, there's so much you can do to get a quiet workspace. Timers, headphones, low music, calendar blocking, do not disturbs. There's a great resources. It's finding what tricks works for you. And I do think it's, by the time, if you've been through university and you're looking for a job, generally what works best for you. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that. Those office walks. Brilliant, Laurie. Love that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, Matteo says the Pomodoro technique's brilliant. Use it frequently when I have plenty of tasks to do during my workday. I've used the Hemingway technique a lot. And he's just popped in a share of a post that was written last week about it.
Fantastic. Yeah. That 20 minutes thing is really... Sorry, Sarah, go on.
It just seems so sad that, wouldn't it be nice to have a workplace where we're accepted for who we are? And actually, I think our generation and, probably ones younger than us have felt they have to hide who they are, and it's a permanent struggle. And that's when you get the stress, because you're struggling to appear the same as everybody else when you work differently. And now kind of opening that up to go, this is who I am, this is how I work, I just work differently, and be in a more accepting environment.
Do you know what, Paul? I think that isn't that just really what's at the core of this is that education to make things like that. So, what works for you, rather than have the label of you are this or that, it's just that kind of understanding, isn't it? And we're so far away from that, right, Paul? It sounds like.
I mean, people with ADHD, the first step, if they don't know they've got it, and they think there's a problem, is actually have an assessment done.
Yeah.
Um, that will be undertaken by an educational psychologist.
Which is what
Test.
you do, right, Paul? That's
Yeah,
what
basically,
YPS do.
we've been doing it since 2011,
Okay.
and that report, which is generated, they can take it to the GP, and
Okay.
it could accelerate them for medication.
Yeah, and at more extreme cases, maybe even a PIP and things like that. Some
Yeah,
government
yeah,
help, those kind of
yeah.
things.
At the moment, we're hearing from different students and employees that there's a massive waiting list
Huge
for
waiting list. Yeah.
people with ADHD to get medication, to even be seen
And
by.
even get the medication because there's a
But they
shortage.
don't all
Yeah.
need medicating.
No,
Medication isn't necessarily
for everybody.
a
Yeah.
one-stop fixes everybody.
No,
I mean,
No.
I know our
no,
girls, have various strategies too that works for them.
yeah.
Um, and
But
but
this
there is a
this is
huge
what we've
gap.
seen. Yeah, and people, we, a large amount of students and employees we actually see want a label
Yeah.
and want medication, and we can't actually provide medication because we're not doctors.
No, indeed.
We're
And that,
educational psychologists,
yeah.
but we I must get phone calls nearly every couple of days for these type of assessments.
So it just goes to show, doesn't it? And it's important. Sarah, there's some other stuff going on in the feed. What's just picking up
Yeah,
on
there's
that point of
lots.
Paul's? Yeah.
Let's have a look. Yeah, the great way of doing a job. It's simply ask what can I do for you to make your performance and well-being increase.
Wouldn't that be
Then
just
you'll have the
so
answers.
simple?
Then
Yeah.
you'll have the answers straight away.
Yeah, maybe that's the culture that we need to create in our workplaces, that we do more of this, and encourage leaders to do exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, Laurie says
Yeah.
she's had jobs where the manager was more concerned with how they did the job rather than the outcome it produced. Completely baffling and
Completely
didn't last
baffling.
long. Yeah, didn't last long in those jobs. I'd like to think we're coming into a more enlightened environment in the workplace. I'm not convinced.
No, indeed. We did this poll the other day. Let me just bring this poll up. As a business leader, what's your top priority for promoting neurodiversity? Leadership awareness, 52% said that. Training initiatives, 10%. Policy development, 10%. Accessible resources, 29%. In truth, it's all of those things, right, Paul? But it's interesting about that leadership awareness there, Paul. That's what people really need, is kind of the understanding of it at the leadership level, I'm wondering.
I mean, yeah. I mean, depends if they get any training from above them, doesn't it? Or the senior management let them actually or pay for the training for them, because this day and age, you see a lot of companies which can't afford the training.
Yeah.
So the culture just carries on stagnant.
You can't not afford to do this stuff, and I like the way there's some legal obligations coming in to make these, to force the issue through.
Yeah,
but again,
it is a companies are not all companies, but a small amount of companies do the bare minimum to pass that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to challenge that and think, isn't that a shame, Paul, that is the case? Because, actually, those companies are really quite dinosaurish, aren't they? And if you're working for that kind of company, are you going to vote with your feet and go elsewhere, as the employee, and not tolerate that? You can't afford not to do it, I'm wondering.
Well,
that's just my challenge.
Speak to ex-employees, and they say and
Hey, someone's bought me a coffee. Thanks, Kieran. Bless you, Kieran. Thank you very much. 5 coffees.
Saying that nothing's changed.
Yeah.
So it's and they won't move because they see I get paid on the 24th.
Yeah, mortgage tokens, right? And we need to do something here, and maybe the smart people are those that move. Let's just bring Mrs. Moderator in again. Sarah, there seems to be other stuff going in the feed. Let's just pick up that and then move it on a bit.
We're just talking about that, how people monitor how you do your job rather than what you produce and what a rubbish system is. I'm going to throw a spanner in the works as per normal and just suggest that I don't believe that cost is a barrier.
No, it shouldn't be, should
But
it?
if you've got employees who, let's face it, we all know who our diverse colleagues are because we talk to them every day. So surely, if you could encourage a culture that says, teach me about your everyday struggles. What does your day look like compared to how my day looks like?
Being interested in our employees.
That's an amazing
Wouldn't
way
it be?
of
Yeah.
finding
Yeah.
out without having to expend large sums of money. If we could, I'm not saying that training is very beneficial, but if you're a small company and you just go, do you know what, we just haven't got the budget for that, but it doesn't mean that we're not interested. Have a look at your employees and go, do you know what, tell me about how your day looks. What struggles do you have? And I think that would be hugely enlightening.
Especially when he's helped there for access to work,
Yeah.
done through the government. I mean, companies haven't got an excuse, but I know it goes on, and the board members want the percentage of their dividend rather than actually give that money to the employees.
Yeah, I get. I mean, the shareholder value thing is a massive argument, isn't it? And I do understand where you're going from that. But things do need to change, don't they? We need to support both. And my belief is that you can get a values-driven company that gives you the profits that you need for your shareholders, as well as making the employees very happy. And if we did that, actually, we get even better performance rather than mediocrity, which is what I'm detecting with this system we've got at the moment. Where everyone has to be squashed through the mold of you need to do this, that, and the other, and not really allowing for any diversity at all. Not really.
I'm guessing for smaller companies, it's probably easier to do what you're suggesting and talking
And wouldn't it be nice if they did? Yeah.
When you've got big corporations who are,
Stuck
it's
in their
like
ways.
very stuck in their ways. Change is incredibly hard to manoeuvre. To get those sort of companies to actually start to take note, I would imagine that's a lot harder. Would you say so, Paul?
Yeah. I mean, because they have a lot of more policies than a smaller company, don't they? But at the end of the day, they want a happy. Well, some companies want a happy workforce. Some companies are not bothered about the workforce and just carry on. It is what it is, and at the end of the day, if they're employed and get money, they just carry on, and it's a job to them. It's a shame, but that's
Totally.
life.
Well, it could be live, but it doesn't have to be. And I think what we're trying to do in Leaders Live is to bring this onto the agenda. To force that change is probably the wrong word, but to encourage a different way of thinking here. That actually we can embrace these kind of in this particular instance, neurodiversity in the workplace for tangible benefits, right? I mean, just before I move on, Sarah, is there anything on the manager side of things that are in the feed that you want to pop up?
Well, as we know, your experience at work hugely depends on your manager and their management style.
Yeah.
And whether it's horrible management and the
horrible management,
or whether it's an inclusive culture that trusts each other. It's about, we always say people don't leave jobs, they leave managers.
Yeah, and this high status thing needs to change, right?
Yeah.
That actually...
I mean, I'd be really interested if we've got any HR managers listening this morning.
Yeah, please give us your
about
opinions.
HR in what we have noticed. I mean, we have two offices. We have one in Cheshire, and we've just opened one up in Exeter. Our son runs the Cheshire office, and when he was doing his master's degree in occupational psychology, he came to work with a psychometric company, and he asked them about neurodiversity within these tests, and they didn't know anything. They didn't know anything about neurodiversity in tests. So all these tests, which HR companies employ, are not neurodiverse.
Yeah. and not
So,
neurodiverse. So,
no, no.
yeah, things have got to change. And what would be your recommendation for that? I mean, looking at some of the success stories that you've seen, Paul, what really helps here to make that shift, and to get to that point
I
where we
mean,
can change workplace culture,
it just why do companies have to have a this is a question what to HR leaders, why do you have to have psychometric testing?
Yeah, why do we do
Why?
that? Yeah.
For example, I know of one person who went for a job in Lloyd's as a psychologist, but ended up doing budgeting and forecasting for a legal role. So within this psychometric testing. Now, why did they do that?
Okay, so they forced him through. He was going for one job, but pushed him through some psychometric testing that was related to another type of role.
Testing, part of metric testing was doing high, and some of the questions which were ridiculous.
So so that particular company just couldn't think out of its own policy boxes,
No.
right? You squeeze everyone through this mold, and that's just it, isn't it? And it's so frustrating. So, Paul, what would open up these cultures? What would you do? If you were to wave a magic wand at this, what would help?
I mean, just one or two things come to mind. The external assessors which they employ for doing these psychometric testings, has that company taken into consideration neurodiverse people for applying for the jobs? Is it something that the HR director can speak to certain companies and say, are you neurodiverse compliant?
Okay. So it really needs a bit of a shake-up, doesn't it? And maybe, leadership teams have to wake up to this and bring an expert in to kind of go, can you look at us and see, whether, what is it that we can't see about ourselves because we're blind to it, like the psychometric testing where we put everyone through this battery of tests just because we do. And yet, is it absolutely necessary, and challenging those things? So I'm just wondering, actually, and maybe there's a future here for YPS as well, in terms of advising companies, not just to, not just the psychometric testing, but actually, what are the benefits to you if you open up your eyes to this and see it differently? And I wonder what kind of companies we could encourage, to be created, if we did these simple things, Paul.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's. It annoys me. It's because they seem to go, well, I don't know if they go for the cheapest option or if they actually just outsource it to a company. My mind boggles, to tell you the truth, about how they actually go about it.
And the agenda needs to shift from policy to, right, how can we embrace this to make us better? How do we embrace this to create the cultures that actually mean that we get a happy workforce and actually will generate massive profits for us as well at the same time? Really interesting. Mrs. Moderator, just picking up that comment there on the 100-acre wood.
Oh, yeah. Mateus reminded me, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
Said it's interesting how slow progress we've made in terms of neurodiversity, considering that kids have been introduced to it for generations. His mum's a teacher for children with special needs and suggested that he read Winnie the Pooh to understand how diverse a class can be. So in the 100-acre wood, you have Piglet, who has anxiety. You have Tigger, who has got ADHD. And Rabbit has got OCD, just to mention a few. And they still collaborate and they still get on well together. How incredibly ahead of his times AA Milne was with that inclusion. I mean, we always used to joke that Andrew was nicknamed Tigger. Well, it just speaks for itself, doesn't it, really? But it's so true. And I think, if you have a workforce that is understood and can be themselves, it lowers the stress levels. If you're not trying to squeeze yourself into a square hole when you're a round peg, you know,
Yeah.
your stress levels are going to be down. You're going to be a lot more productive. You're going to have less time off and the company profits. It's not rocket
It's
science,
not
is
rocket
it?
science, is it? Maybe we ought to get every leadership team to read Winnie the Pooh very seriously. You know,
Well,
I'm
Yeah,
not, I'm not
I
being
mean,
silly here. You know,
people with if they struggle, it can impact on the well-being as well, and they could go into depression.
indeed.
massively.
And
Yeah,
that with that leads the employee to go off for a long period of illness.
yeah,
So
yeah. Which
the
then affects the
losing,
company, right? You know, and
You've
everybody
got
loses out. You know,
You've got
yeah,
burnout, you've got depression, you've got stress, you've got anxiety, all
yeah,
of which cause long-term periods of time off work. And the company, you know, just
yeah.
here we go. Dr. Julian Nesbitt.
Hello,
Julian,
Julian. How you
thank
doing,
you
mate?
for popping up on our feed.
Yeah,
The
fantastic.
greatest companies are built with neurodiversity, which allows thinking outside
Ah,
the box and
yeah,
innovation. In this day and age, without continual innovation, the company will fail.
there you go. That's
yeah,
well said, Julian. I'll be, you know, that's the band.
Absolutely.
That's what we've been banging all this session.
yeah,
Yeah.
That we need to do this, don't we? You know, and Julian's got it. That's the sentence, isn't it? That's what we need to be striving for. You know, in this world, is changing that culture. And yeah, you know, I think he's just popped something else in the feed
No,
there. So
it's come up
yeah,
same
yeah.
thing's come up twice. It's fine.
Oh, it is the same thing,
But
right? Yeah,
it's so interesting, isn't it? It's such a hot topic.
yeah,
I think ADHD and inclusivity and neurodiversity are buzzwords which companies use, but they're just words without
yeah,
any substance behind it. And I think,
yeah,
you know, talk to,
yeah.
talk to your workforce. Julian, you need to listen to the podcast.
yeah, Julian.
Um,
yeah.
and I suspect there are so many parents who
Mm.
could listen to this and just go, yeah, why can you not see the potential
Why can't you
in
see the
young
potential?
people because you try and stick them in this box that doesn't fit?
Oh, so well said. You know, and that's the thing, isn't it? You know, we're just squashing people through molds, and you know, actually, yeah, you know, ADHD has a real. We all have benefits here. You know, ADHD, dyslexia, they all come with significant benefits. All we're doing is seeing the dysfunction of that, and just going for the mediocrity of mere normality, rather than thinking, actually, each individual comes with a bunch of superpowers, and how can we encourage that person to be the very best they are? You know, Dr. Julian would openly admit, and as I do, that, you know, ADHD is my superpower, and I know it's his superpower. You know, things get done with ADHD. You know, yes, it has a downside, but so does normality. That's called mediocrity, right?
We're back to that normal world again.
Yeah, I know. Terrible stuff.
We
Terrible.
don't use the word normal in our
No,
household.
no,
It's
totally. There ain't no such thing. Okay, so success stories. You know, you must have come across companies that have had these kind of successes. You know, just thinking
Yeah,
about, you know, what,
yeah. I mean, we had get me fifth piece of paper out, and over the years, we've had many successful stories, but this one, the company put. He was struggling with written instructions, following technical manuals, following written instructions, spelling and handwriting.
oh yeah, yeah,
We did an assessment and found out he had dyslexia and auditory processing difficulties.
which is very prevalent with dyslexia, right? They
Yeah,
often go
yeah.
hand in hand, and you know, upper memory and things like that, short-term memory processing.
So the company put things in place like individual tuition sessions with a dyslexia specialist, IT, technical age, what we talked about before, Dragon software, and concessions in professional exams. So when he took his professional exams, he got extra time within that setting.
Very important. Yeah.
Adjustments for the exams if he needed a workplace by himself to undertake the exam, that was instilled as well. All these recommendations the actual company put in place and supported him.
Yeah, and I'm picking up there's two things here as well, Paul. There's not just the company, and we've been banging on about blaming the company here or pushing the company to change culture. But the other part to this, which is really important, which you just picked up there, Paul, is, the individual and making individual self-aware of maybe a condition which they've got, and not to be ashamed of it, but to do something about it and to get treatment for it, or to have awareness of it. And actually then, so it's two things, isn't it? One, it's about all the employees and, having that facility to be tested if necessary to increase their self-awareness, which then allows them to embrace it and not to be ashamed of it, but to see it as part of who they are. And equally the company, not to let them be ashamed of it and let them, and to embrace it and to benefit from it as well, Paul.
Well, this employee, I should say, embraced it with both arms, and now he's an actual ambassador for wellbeing now. And,
there you go. And
So
he'll make a CEO one day, maybe, Paul, as a leader, and make changes that way as well.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he helps other people with neurodiverse conditions.
Yeah. And talking about that, Paul, this was what. So this is what you do here is do exactly that, don't you? This is you do the psychometric testing for employees.
Yeah.
To have that discussion with their employer about their needs, right? And this is what, and your encouragement, I think, here, Paul, is not just for the individual to take charge of this, but also, the payment could be made through the company, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Anything else you want to say about that, Paul? Is there anything you want to add to that?
We don't just do assessments. We do the training as well.
The leadership training, the awareness training.
We do leadership training, and if anybody wants anything, just get in contact with me, phone me or email me. Also, we do wellness products as well, which we've used within the therapy as well, because we undertake therapy.
For individuals.
For individuals as well.
Is that to help them embrace their difference and see it, in a positive way, and through counselling or through coaching or through therapy or mindset shift? Is that what you're saying, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, we work with large organisations like AXA and Bupa.
Okay, right.
And we get referrals from them, but also we get individuals phoning us as well about therapy. Yeah. Okay. And we need to make these joins, don't we? And to encourage people to do this stuff, which is what you're doing here. And this is your website, Paul, if I can bring it up. Ta-da! Just let me scroll through this. Expert mental health neurodiversity support. So you can find all your needs here for your company and for your employees here, but also for for employees too, to find stuff out here and to challenge their organisations as well. To get some support here. It's a two-way thing, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. And here we go. Wellness membership programs, training, guided self-help, diagnostic assessments. And this is the stuff that Dr. Julian Nesbitt does as well in his business, is trying to make this available, to bridge that gap between a health service which is failing us because it's, we're not going to go there, but, a failing system almost because it's absolutely stretched, and finding... YPS is part of that bridging that gap. So you can't get everything, unfortunately, from the national health at the moment. And so these are really necessary, Paul, to help us to grow and develop as company cultures as well as individuals in today's modern workplace, right? Yeah, it is. And if we can help anybody, we will do. Yeah, so reach out, folks. So there we go. This is Paul's website here. He's got offices in Cheshire, England, but also down in Exeter as well. So covering both parts of the country now. And Paul is heading up the expansion of YPS Psychology in the southwest as well. Paul, is where I met you from, right? Yes, yes, indeed. Yes. Okay, so that's a little bit about Paul, and we're running out of time as we always do. Sarah, just a quick call to action for us as well.
Yeah, just a reminder, please do subscribe, because it makes accessing all the information really easy. You get lots of extra content as well. Just talking about Leaders Live, and we're not afraid to discuss the difficult topics.
Like today.
We would absolutely love, if you're out there listening going, this is amazing, we need to help these people. If you would like to sponsor us and become on board as one of our sponsors, we would absolutely love that. Do please get in touch, because I do feel we're a bit of a trailbreaker. For those of you who know Andrew, that is no great surprise. There needs to be more of this, but it comes at a cost. So if you'd like to sponsor us, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and that's what Leaders Live's all about. Just as Sarah said, look, we're trying to trailblaze some new concepts here in leadership, to wake leadership up, to kind of shake out that mediocrity, folks, which includes all of us, and this topic is really important part of that. It's a piece in the jigsaw of many parts to this, and this is just one part. Paul, thank you really so much for a really enlightening conversation, and for really showing us where we are today, but where we could go, more importantly, Paul, with this stuff, because this is massively important. And at the moment, this is about testing for individuals and awareness, which is what Paul offers with YPS Psychology, and that's an important step, but it's only part of the jigsaw. We need to wake up our leadership teams as well. So that's thank you, Paul, for such a brilliant provocative conversation this morning. Fantastic. Thanks, Paul. And the goose for next week, guys, we've another guy that I met with Paul, actually. We met at the same networking event, Dominic Whitecross. We're going to be talking about blockchain and visionary, the vision of blockchain and, Bitcoin currencies and all of those things next week. So, Dominic is the CEO of High Labs, a visionary blockchain company, and he unravels the secrets behind decentralized blockchain revolution, not just in finance, but in other things too. And we're talking about chain, we're going to call it Chain Chick, unveiling the blockchain brilliance. And what that means for our futures as IT and ChatGPT and high technology, and blockchain are all changing are the way we think about finance and the way we think about business, and how our strategic minds collide with cutting edge technology and investment. So that's where we're heading next week. We think you're going to love it. So that's next week's Goosh. And we're closing just slightly later than we normally are, but we're closing just out of the hour. So great to see you this week. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you for your comments on, it's quite a difficult subject, and helping us to shape leadership for the future. Thank you very much. We're going to wave goodbye to you on our outro closer. Goodbye for now. Cheers for now, everybody. See you again next week, folks. We love our groovy show, and we'll see you all next week for another fab show. We hope that you've taken away lots today, and thank you for joining in, and we'll see you for another groovy, awesome session next week. Bye for now. Cheers now. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.